In this short video, we'll talk about what plagiarism is and how to avoid it. Briefly, though, we can define plagiarism as the act of presenting another's work or ideas as your own. But first, let's talk about why we should use other people's ideas in our writing. Using outside sources in your writing. In your college or university courses, you will likely be asked to write formal academic papers. When you write academically, the reader expects that you'll support your topic with not only your ideas, your voice, but with the voices from experts in the field you are writing about. Formal academic papers should be research-based, and in this class, the research you do involves reading the articles presented in class. Once you learn about the author's ideas in the readings about the topic, you can include their ideas in your own paper to support your thesis. Let's take a quick look at an overview of an example of how we can include information from outside sources. What you see here is one body paragraph from an essay that's talking about negative effects of overconsumption of resources in the environment. And you'll notice here that there's some green highlighted areas, and that's information from other sources. So the non-highlighted area is the writer's information. The green is the information from outside sources. So in the first example, the writer is writing a paraphrase of information that was taken from an article, from another source, from another text. This information here wasn't written exactly the same as it was written in the source, and the writer paraphrased it and wrote the information in their own words. In the second example, you'll see little quotation marks at the beginning and at the end, and that means that the information from the outside source is the exact information that was written in the outside source. So the top one is a paraphrase, so it's in your own words, you're writing about what you read in an article, and the second one is exact words in quotes that came from an outside source or an article. You'll also notice that for this paraphrase or for this quoted information, each one has the sources mentioned. In other words, where did you get the information from? The first one lists the author, Greenfield, and it lists the paragraph number where this information came from. The second example doesn't have a formal author. It has Forest Facts, the United Nations Environment Program. So this is some kind of a publication that doesn't have an official human author, but it has an organization as the author. And we mentioned the paragraph number again. So if a reader wants to find more information from Greenfield's article, they can look at the end of your essay, where by the end of this course, you'll be making a list of sources that you use to support your essay. And it's organized by the author's last name. So that's why we use the author's last name. And then in our class, we're going to help the reader know where you got your information from by using paragraph numbers. In English 1 and other classes, you'll probably use page numbers, and some other information, the year of, just page numbers and author numbers or author names. Anyway, so this is just an example of how we can incorporate information from outside sources. We'll get into this in a little more detail about how we do this. So the problem is that when we don't give credit to the source, plagiarism occurs. Plagiarism occurs when you copy someone else's words or ideas and call them your own. So in other words, you don't cite them. You don't say who the author was. You don't say where in the article, what paragraph or page was that information on in the article. In the United States and other countries, plagiarism is considered wrong and can result in a reduced or 0 grade on a paper, or even being dropped from a class. And in serious cases, a student may be expelled, in other words, have to leave a school if plagiarism continues to happen. Please learn more about plagiarism so you can avoid this mistake. To avoid plagiarism, give credit to the source of the information. So in the cartoon, the boy says, "What do you mean all my facts are wrong? I copied everything straight off the internet." So that's an example of sort of stealing information, stealing someone else's words and pretending they are your own. So giving credit or crediting the source means that if you copy someone else's words or ideas, great, you can copy it from an outside source, but you just must tell the reader who wrote the words and ideas and where they came from. If you're copying exact words, you need to put quotes around it. And if you're paraphrasing, you can paraphrase without quotes, but you do need to tell the reader where you got the information from and who wrote it. 2 ways to avoid plagiarism. So one is paraphrasing and the other is a direct quotation. I showed an example of those already, but let's look at them a little more closely. So in paraphrasing, you take someone else's words or ideas and restate them in your own words and credit the person or the source of the words or ideas. For example, the original sentence was, "Many people in Canada are bilingual." The paraphrase is, "2 languages are spoken by a large number of Canadians." The meaning is the same, but you've now paraphrased and written the sentence in your own words. The reason we paraphrase is really important. It shows that you understood the meaning, and it shows your facility or your ability to use the English language when you can paraphrase. So most importantly, it means you've read the readings, you understand the readings, and you can talk about what you read in the readings, main ideas and facts and details in your own words. So let's look at the very end here. We have Conroy paragraph 1. This is another way, I haven't showed you this yet, where you can give the author and then the either page or paragraph, so paragraph in this class, paragraph number, in your paraphrase. You could put the author in the sentence, so according to Conroy, 2 languages are spoken, blah, blah, blah. Or if you don't want to make it complicated in your sentence, you can just tuck the author's last name in parentheses with the paragraph number. So we call this information here an in-text citation. That can be just the paragraph number, or the author can be in the actual paraphrase. So this information must be somewhere in your text, around your text, inside your writing. So we call that an in-text citation. Note, the act of telling your readers where you got someone's ideas and words is formally called citing your source. If you find someone's words, so let's look at, direct quotation. If you find someone's words or ideas that are unusual or especially delightful, or poetic or profound, you can copy these words exactly as long as you put quotation marks around the words, the quote, and give the source credit. For example, "You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb inside of his skin and walk around in it." So this is exact words. So I've got a quote at the end, a quote at the beginning, and the author is Harper Lee. So I just have her last name. She was, I think, 14 when she wrote this. She wrote a very famous book. And this here is referring to page 2 because she wrote a book. Again, we'll be using paragraph numbers in this class. Okay, so here we got our quotation marks. The original source was from Lee Harper in 1960, To Kill a Mockingbird. Great book. So if you have a chance to read a book in English, I would highly recommend this book. It's a classic. Okay, so let's go back one more time and take a look at the paragraph that has in-text citations. So if you remember, in the first one, we've got a paraphrase here. So this is not the exact words, but it is the exact same meaning that was paraphrased. And it was taken from this author Greenfield, last name only, and the information came from paragraph 1 in the article that he or she wrote. We'll find out the article, exactly where it is, maybe even the link on the internet later when we make a list of all of our sources by author's last name. That'll be in the last page of your essay. That's called a works cited page. We're not there yet, but we will get there. And then the other example I mentioned before was an exact quote, and it has the author, and it has the paragraph number. And that's all.